the Resistance to obtain payment for your help. Only R2 knows where the encampment is.
Hello there, sexy gamers, and welcome back to Pure Play TV for another video review. And this time we're going to a galaxy far, far away with Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge for Oculus Quest. Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge feels like a Star Wars game built specifically for me in one obvious way, and in one completely random and ridiculous way. First of all, it's Star Wars built for virtual reality, which I love and is the gaming medium that gets me the most excited. The second, more ridiculous reason is this: you play the game as a droid repairman. I spent over a decade as an appliance repairman, and that is obviously the same thing. Washing machines and dishwashers are like droids for regular people, and these types of swashbuckling adventures are always happening to those of us in the appliance/droid repair game. But seriously, Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge is yet another game set in a galaxy far, far away from the same developer that brought us the Vader Immortal series. That series focused on theatrics and lightsabers, while this one is basically a first-person shooter on the planet of Batuu. Aside from playing as the intergalactic Sears repairman, and featuring some fine voice work from Saturday Night Live's Bobby Moynihan and the great Anthony Daniels, the story is not what will keep you coming back. Although for those fans who are always anxious to get more Star Wars, like me, Tales from the Galaxy's Edge was a treat. Before we carry on, do us a solid and hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, and use the force on the bell icon so that you're notified when we've got new stuff. Cheers, my dears. As far as the gameplay, it often reminded me of my two favourite VR games. Some areas of the planet Batuu brought me back to blasting the face-jumping aliens in Farpoint, the PSVR shooter from a few years back. As a full-blown arachnophobe, I'm thankful there weren't any spiders here. Instead, just members of the Gorvan Death Gang and other humanoid aliens up to no good. The gunplay here feels damn good, and I even use my MK111 gunstock from Virtual Rifle Systems whenever I use the rifle. But you'll also use a pump-action shotgun and a couple of blasters, including the iconic blaster used by Han Solo. The other pistol and the common Stormtrooper rifle blaster have a vent release valve that needs to be pulled back when it overheats, mimicking chambering a round in a real-life weapon. I used the rifle blaster a lot because it was everywhere, and because it worked great with my gunstock, but it was seriously underpowered. Han Solo's blaster, on the other hand, was a beast, killing most foes in one shot. It is only a temporary weapon, however, as it seemed to only have one mag in it, so after 6 or 8 shots, it's paperweight. In addition to the typical blasters, you'll also find a ton of flying remote droids. You might remember these as those hovering droids that helped Luke take his first step into a larger world in Star Wars A New Hope. These come in handy, especially if you play the game on the hardest difficulty. You'll need these droids to mark enemies, draw enemy fire, and even help with their own attacks. You can have 3 of these deployed at any one time. You simply throw them into the air and they get to work. You can attach these droids either to your left or your right hip holster, or put them in your pouch on your chest for easy access. This pouch acts as your inventory and it worked great. This is where you stash your various remote droids and anything else you manage to scavenge on the way, like space junk and money. What I really liked about the inventory setup is that I could easily access it with one hand. If I was holding a blaster with my right hand, I could pull the pouch from my chest with my free hand and the contents would float out in front of me, allowing me to grab whatever it is I wanted, namely a remote droid or 3, without ever having to drop the weapon in my other hand. This was also helpful if the tiny back-to-spray canister that attached to my right wrist ran out. In a firefight, the back-to-spray that regenerates your health is within easy reach on your right wrist, but it only has 2 doses per canister, so inevitably you'll need to grab an extra canister from your pouch. With a little practice, this inventory setup works great, and it shows me that ILM X Lab has an excellent grasp of the VR space. This is great news for future tales in this series, and hopefully many more VR games from the Lucas Effects studio. This is a first-person shooter at its heart, but you'll also be solving some puzzles as well. I mentioned that Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge reminded me of a couple of my favourite VR games. The shooting and the locale reminded me of Farpoint, but the puzzle solving using a multi-tool is right out of the Half-Life Alyx playbook. Throughout each level you'll find various computer terminals or safes that will need to be repaired or broken into. Whichever the case, your handy multi-tool will get the job done. Sometimes it's as easy as using the nut driver portion to remove the bolts or the blowtorch to cut through the metal. Once inside, you'll need to use your tool to solve some randomly generated puzzles. Most of these puzzles were quite easy to solve, but the tool was surprisingly fun to use, so I enjoyed it. Once you manage to get inside these randomly placed metal loot boxes, you'll find money, space junk, which you can trade for money, weapons, and Bacta canisters. As you can tell, I enjoyed my time in Batuu, but the journey was far from perfect. The game somehow manages to both be very polished, and yet it still feels unfinished. Don't get me wrong, it looks great and the music is superb, the voice acting is great and the writing is really well done too, but it all manages to feel like a 3-hour intro to a much bigger game. The money you receive and the space junk you can recycle for cash makes this feeling even worse. I enjoy scavenging as much as the next guy, but I wasn't able to use the money until the very end of the game. All of this makes it feel like I'm only getting started in this game, which is actually true, I guess. The tale from the galaxy we actually get after the main game is only 15 minutes long or so, but more are coming next year. Will the next tale be free DLC? Will there be a steady diet of upcoming tales? I don't know the answer to any of those questions, but I do know that the core game here is just what I was looking for, and I can't wait for more. If I had to guess, I'd bet that the next DLC will be free, and then anything after that will cost us something. I'd be more than happy with that. It took me 4 hours to finish this game, but I had some difficulty defeating the final boss. The normal difficulty setting offered a decent challenge, and it felt perfect for me. If you want a real challenge, you can set the difficulty to max, which sees you killed after taking only 2 shots. Another issue that annoyed me was needing to use teleportation to reach heights or drop off of ledges. They make this easy to do and seamless within the gameplay, but it still breaks the immersion. I know jumping in VR is not for everybody, but I would have preferred some jumping or climbing, personally. They somewhat deal with this by giving you a jetpack. That sounds awesome, right? It should have been, but this jetpack only goes straight up. You can't fly around, strafe, or do anything except go straight up. It was an obvious crutch to avoid doing anything that would make newcomers to VR feel uncomfortable. Don't get me wrong, I think it's important that newcomers feel very comfortable in their games, but to me it felt very gamey, and it took me out of this otherwise awesome Star Wars universe, and it reminded me I was in my living room, annoying my family. Otherwise, the game ran smooth, and the only glitch I found was that I would see my left hand disappear repeatedly. This happened several times throughout my playthrough, and I suspect that will be patched very soon if it hasn't already been by the time this video goes live. For me, 4 fun hours in a good VR Star Wars game is well worth the $30 asking price, but then again, I love a good FPS and Star Wars, so this one pushed most of my buttons. I guess I don't mind playing games in an episodic fashion as long as the episodes aren't too short or too expensive. I'd rather get the whole game at once, but I'm not sure that is the world we are living in anymore. If you are a Star Wars fan, I wouldn't hesitate to buy this game right now. For everyone else, waiting for the next installment or waiting for a sale may not be a bad choice either. I'm personally glad I played it, and I'll probably play it again soon. And that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, show the love by hitting the like and subscribe buttons on your way down to the comments, where you will no doubt leave some lovely words for us to read. Give the bell a nudge too, so that you're the first to know when we've got new stuff for you to watch. I've been Chris, you've been great little Padawans, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, bye!